In this video, I want to show you how to set up your main lines in a base station 3200. Before completing these steps, you need to have first configured your points of connection. To set up your main line, turn the dial to the flow dial position. The first option we have is assign water sources to mainline. In other videos, I've explained how to configure a point of connection. You have 8 points of connection here listed on the left that can be assigned to any one of 8 separate main lines. So POC1, if I want to assign to mainline 1, I can make that change. I can also assign a point of connection 2 to a different mainline if I choose by using the next and previous and plus and minus keys. The base station 3200 will use any point of connection that's assigned to its mainline. In this case, at defaults, you can see all of the points of connection are assigned to mainline 1. I could assign point of connection 2 to mainline 2 and point of connection 3. In fact, let's do that. Mainline 2, hit my previous key to highlight point of connection 3, and then my plus key to assign that to mainline 2. With that, the controller, whenever a program starts that is assigned to mainline 2, it will then use water from both points of connection 2 and 3, depending on their priority and their availability. I press my back key to return to the main menu, and then I go into assign programs to main lines. A program can be assigned to a main line, and that's how the controller knows which master valves to turn on and which flow meters to monitor. To do this, I simply choose the program, press the next key to highlight the box that I want to assign it to, and change its mainline assignment. A program can be assigned to any one of the 8 main lines that are available. Once I've assigned the program to the main line, I can then go set up the operating limits for the main line. In the mainline setup screen, you can see that I've got the main line that I want to set up here highlighted blue. I can change that with plus or minus. I can then go down and I can set a design flow. This is the maximum amount of gallons that the controller is going to allow to be used on this main line. I set that with my plus or minus key. Once I've set my design flow, I then can go set the pipe fill or the stabilization time. This is simply a period of time in minutes that the controller will wait before it starts to monitor and manage against its flow settings. The concurrent zones by flow setting allows the controller to turn on as many zones as it can without exceeding the design flow target that I set in this box here. The concurrent zones by flow, I'm going to set this to yes, and then the controller will then take either the manually set design flow for the zone that's explained in another video, or the learned flow value that the controller has gotten from a learned flow cycle, and it will turn on as many zones as it can without exceeding that design flow limit that you set. I also have the ability to set a high flow variance. If I set my high flow variance to 10%, the controller will then monitor and manage and make sure that the controller doesn't exceed, in this case, 55 gallons, which is, 10% of 50 is 5, so 55 gallons on the main line. And the controller will also use this high flow variance for the zone. If I have a zone that has 20 gallons per minute for its learned flow value, if the controller sees 22 gallons based on this 10%, I can tell the controller whether or not to shut it down. I can do the same thing with the low flow variance as well. It's a percentage, and the controller will look for flow that's that percentage lower than the design flow or the learned flow. Now, the way the controller identifies a flow fault based on this flow variance, let's use an example of 3 zones. The controller is running 3 zones at a time, and it sees a variance above or below based on these variance settings that I've set. It will mark all 3 zones as suspect. It will then turn those 3 zones off and turn on one of the suspect zones and 2 more additional zones, and look for the flow variance again. If it doesn't see a problem, it will continue watering those zones to done so it doesn't interrupt your watering, and then mark that previously suspected zone to OK, and then turn on 2 additional zones and another of the suspect zones and repeat the process. That will allow you to identify which zone is at fault without causing a major disruption in your watering window or cycle. That's how you set up your main lines in the base station 3200.